Welcome to the Evolution Magazine live series. It is June 24th, year 2021, and tonight we are broadcasting from the KC Can Transport office in Blue Springs, Missouri. Tonight we learn about the state's first licensed transportation company, led by a veteran team. Clayton Stallings visits with Kevin KC Schnell and Justin Morris of KC Can Transport. Our show will get underway in just a few moments, but first, a word from our sponsors. The Missouri Cannabis Industry Association has been our longest-running show sponsor, while providing quality education over many topics in partnership with area cannabis professionals. MCIA is dedicated to a free cannabis market to create supplies and prices that are patient-friendly, with initiatives to support adult-use cannabis, to protect home growers' rights, and expand the caregiving program. Go to mocia.org to learn about memberships, to learn about their certified caregiving program, and learn how to get involved. Thank you, MCIA, for being a show sponsor.
Getting a medical marijuana patient recommendation just got easier with Elevate Holistics. Using HIPAA-compliant telemedicine software, Elevate Holistics enables patients like you to receive medical marijuana recommendations from the comfort of their own homes. Here's how it works. First, visit elevate-holistics.com to book your appointment using our online schedule. Then complete the intake forms in our confirmation email. Finally, visit with the doctor using the link in your confirmation email. It's that simple. Book an appointment today.
Tonight's video is provided by Cat King Films. Check this out. Cat King Films is offering promotional content, commercials, training videos, wedding videos, and documentary-style video production at an affordable price. A free consultation comes with every project to ensure that it is personalized to your brand. Check out previous projects by exploring the different sections on the newly launched website at catkingfilms.com.
And we are back with another live show here with the Evolution Magazine. We are shooting live from a very different location here. We are shooting from Kansas City, KC Can Transport's facility here in Blue Springs, Missouri. This is our very first live show with a transportation company. We're very excited to introduce our guests here, but before we do that, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. MCIA, obviously our longest show running sponsor. We have a great show coming up next month with them with Culligan Water, talking about the importance of using osmosis filtration systems for home growers. Also going to be talking a little bit more about the adult use initiatives that are coming up through MCIA. That's coming up next month. Also, Greenlight. We had a live show from their cultivation facility last week, so check that out. Not right now, later on after this show is over. Thanks Greenlight for sponsoring. Also, Elevate Holistics. Thank you for sponsoring as well. We have some great gifts tonight. Some giveaways, including a free certification from Elevate Holistics. Tag a friend in the comments to get them into the competition for that free certification. Also, we're going to be giving away some free loyalty points from Greenlight dispensaries. So tag a friend. You can tag them as many times as you want. You can enter into that competition each time for those loyalty points for free in-store purchases from Greenlight dispensaries. And then, of course, KC Transport, which is where we're here at today. I want to introduce you, real quick. Remember, you guys, this is a live show. So if you have questions for these guys at home, feel free to put those in the comments. James is going to put up a little comment box if you want to be anonymous in your questions. All those questions come up on this screen right here in front of me. I ask those questions to our guests, and that's what makes this such a fabulous interactive show with you guys at home. So feel free to participate in that. Without further ado, I want to introduce our guests here today. So to my right here is Casey Snell, or Kevin Snell, whichever you want to call him here. CEO, founder, president of KC Can Transport, the very first licensed transportation facility in Missouri. So we have Kevin over here, and then to my left we have Justin Morris.
Hello.
And Justin, what's your position in the company again?
I am one of the transporters for the company.
One of the transporters for the company.
Yes, sir.
So before we dive into some of the questions tonight, guys, I want to give a little background. Or I want you to give a little background of kind of where you gathered your experience. We see a lot of militaries, a lot of veterans, a lot of retired police officers in this particular position here in the state, and we'll get into more of why that is later in the conversation. But why don't we start with a little background on kind of where you came from before we got to where we're at now, and we can start with you, Kevin.
Okay. Well, I have about 25 years of military law enforcement experience. 10 years of that is active duty Army, 15 years in law enforcement, and then I've been in executive protection for about the last 10 years.
You said executive protection?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's, can you explain that a little bit further for some of our viewers?
Sure, layman terms is bodyguard, but typically for celebrities, executives like C-suite personnel, CFOs, CEOs, COOs. Then we also do asset protection as well. It could be diamonds, it could be medical marijuana, whatever the case may be. Proprietary information, facilities, locations, that sort of thing.
So you were already doing similar protection services before you came in. So what led you to go from that type of work to cannabis protection or cannabis transportation?
It actually never crossed my mind to get involved with marijuana in general, let alone medical marijuana and transport security of facilities and whatnot. It actually was brought to my attention by Brandon and Rachel Dunn. They reached out and asked if they were interested, or if we were interested in getting involved with the industry, but they were instrumental in that education for us to decide. It took us a good 4 months of research before we decided that was a good thing for our veterans to do.
Right on. And then, so Justin, give us a little background about where you were at before you got into this industry, and then what made you come in, cross over into this industry.
Gotcha. I did 15 years with Johnson County, Kansas Sheriff's Office. Before I started here, before that I worked for Franklin County Juvenile Detention. My father was in law enforcement, and I kind of had two passions: was do I be a teacher or to be in law enforcement? And I was lucky enough to go to Johnson County and get the opportunity to be in our full-time training unit for 9 years there. And then did 15 years with the sheriff's office, and I was like, hey, I got a lot of opportunities to come out and train and help people. That's kind of where my passion is. And so I took an early retirement from the sheriff's office, and I was out. And then one of my buddies that also works for the company, Evan Hall, contacted me. He's like, hey, we got this security company, and he introduced me to Kevin. It's like, it's medical marijuana. Are you good with that? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine with that. It's a good product that people are serving out there. So I got involved with it, and it's been great. It's been an awesome opportunity. And like you and I were talking earlier, it's like, this is a very hard-working community. I get to work with obviously fellow transporters, but also cultivation, manufacturing people, how hard they work, how many hours a day they work. I get to see that. And honestly, it makes me better seeing that work ethic and ingenuity. It's been a lot better than I expected.
So let's talk about this. There's been a lot of people. We won't go into names or whatever, but there's been a lot of people that out there on social media and whatnot that are sort of saying, why are military, why are ex-military or ex-police officers or veterans, why are they being put in charge of the transportation side of things? Is there, do you want to address like the importance or the similarities, or why are we seeing that it's mostly veterans and retired police officers that are doing this particular side of the job in the medical side?
Well, I can tell you why I do and why I chose military and law enforcement veterans, most of which, by the way, our employees, most of them are both. They're dual military and law enforcement veterans. But they spend their entire careers protecting assets, people, locations, and information. It just seemed like a good fit. Now, I started this initially just for military veterans, ones that were getting out of the military, then getting into government contracting and still deploying overseas in those austere environments, still separating from their family. So I missed the majority of my oldest growing up because I was always gone, deployment after deployment after deployment, long hours, working nights in law enforcement. It's a tough balance for family. But the discipline of military and law enforcement veterans is just a perfect fit for this. You have to be very flexible. I'll get calls last minute, middle of the night, first thing in the morning, and say, hey, can you do this now?
From the license winners.
Correct.
And we'll get into why that is here a little bit later, but continue, sorry. So veterans and military, so the people that are retired police officers or veterans per se that want to continue working past retirement in that field, their options are what? Go overseas and be. That's true. What are the options
and there's plenty of law enforcement have skills. It was like, dude, I don't have skills. I wish I did. Like, I wish I could build a house. I wish I could do plumbing. I wish I could work on cars. I don't have that. But I think the other aspect of that is, and it's like a generic answer that people, why do you want to be a police officer? It's like, I want to help people. That's true. I mean, for a lot of us, that is true. And it sounds like it's not a good answer on a law enforcement interview without going into more detail, but it's true. They want to help people. And they want to protect. They have that sense. It's kind of like, The Blind Side. You scored like 90-some% on the protection deal on this test. And I think that's the attitude that law enforcement, military, not all of them, but that bring to that. And it's kind of like that's what we want to do. That's where our skills are at. I feel comfortable doing that. I feel right doing that, and that's what I want to do. So I think that's why it's good. Not that other people can't do it, obviously, but I think that's why it's good. It kind of draws the law enforcement, military, that protection, that, hey, I want to help people. And like I say, we provide that. It is a very, very valuable product, and sometimes there's people out there that want to take valuable products from other people, and that's a good way to. It's life. That's the way it is.
Sure. So obviously, it's. The whole cannabis thing it's very tempting for thieves or for people that that do that type of things. It's very tempting for them to try to make a quick run or a quick thief or a quick win on that. But as far as like jobs that goes for military or retired police officers, it's either go overseas and do a very more dangerous job where you're protecting somebody, or where you're protecting something that's, it seems like there's a lot more dangerous jobs out there for retired police officers and military than coming into the cannabis space. It seems like would be a preferred job for those people because
it's an excellent job. And I'll tell you one thing. Its simple answer is like, everybody's happy to see you, man. You're bringing medication that people want, that people need, and everybody's happy to see you. So that's definitely different than day-to-day law enforcement, and it's a good thing. Law enforcement in general deals with people on their worst day, or a small percentage that most of the public doesn't have to deal with, and that's a good thing. But those people are dealing with people on their worst days, and the small percentage of people that have worse days a lot of the days. So it's a good thing for law enforcement to get kind of out of that toxic environment. It's an excellent job to serve people, but also, like I said, you're dealing with that small percentage of society that most people don't deal with, and that's good. That's why we're there.
Yeah.
But it takes a toll on you. So to be able to come in and do that same calling, so to speak, and have people appreciate you and meet, like I said, meet great people, hardworking people, I like it.
And well, the whole upholding the law thing, I know a lot of police officers that just didn't even want to waste their time with cannabis type stuff. They had to do certain things that, along the way to protect and serve, to make sure, but it's such a safer industry than like any kind of mercenary, any kind of like outside going to another country. You have time with family, you're here local. It's a lot easier to have a real life, in this side of things. And there's a lot of people out there that say, oh, well, you were a police officer, you were against this. It wasn't the police officers that were against this. It was the government that set the rules that you guys had to reinforce.
And that's a misnomer. We hear that quite a bit. We don't make the laws. We're hired to enforce those laws, whether we agree with them or not, unfortunately.
Yeah. Does not matter. They don't listen to us. It does not matter.
And we have our first question here. Thank you guys for asking questions. Please keep those coming in. Daniel Jones, he's from Peace of Mind, has the Flower Power Hour down in Rolla. Very big influencer in that area of rural Missouri. Asks, what does the day in the life of a transport company look like?
I would say first and foremost, it's logistical. So there's a lot of things on the backside that we have to do to prep for that transport before the transporters actually receive it. So, and we get constant changes. I mean, all day, every day, my phone is off, just constantly ringing, emails, phone calls, texts, just saying, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? Can we push this forward? And of course, that causes a domino effect of problems. But it's just a lot of preparation that goes into it. Routes, timeline, to the minute. We try to stick, if we said we're going to be there at 10:23 a.m., we're going to be there at 10:23 a.m. if at all possible. There's obviously some factors that come into play. But after I get all the paperwork together, the routes, everything printed up that each transporter will need, it gets passed on to Justin. And I'll let him tell you a little bit more about that.
So then you get to pass this information on, and what's your next
Passes
process
on,
there?
And just to reiterate with Kevin, like, he doesn't want to talk about, like, he gets a lot of last minute stuff, and it's the nature of the business right now. It's a growing industry. It's an awesome, innovative industry, but it's a lot of last minute details. That's really nobody's fault, just the nature of the business. So to be able to get that out, and speaking for the other transporters, like, I'm probably going to work tomorrow. I don't know what time yet, and that's the nature of the business. So we find out we're going to work, we come up, especially if it's a new location, which is awesome to get to travel around Missouri and see new locations. Hey, I'm going to look it up. Where is this at? Sometimes the addresses are wrong. I'm looking that up and making sure it's the correct address. Does this look right? It does. And then we come into work the next day. Kevin does a great job of having everything prepped for us. It's simple. I can walk in, grab the clipboard, quick check of my route. Everything's there that we need, and then we're on to pick up from multiple locations. Potentially it could be one location, and then you're definitely going to be delivering to multiple locations across the state of Missouri. And when I say across the state of Missouri, we have runs that go everywhere across Missouri. So each run's a different amount of time, and you have your challenges along the way coming up with things, but we make it work. And
So just to clarify, yes. So each job, each day, there's a different location, but there's multiple stops along the way. And I know from my own personal experience through just doing what I'm doing with the magazine that there's very little, if not any, notice at all on when you're going to get this call, because the dispensaries, they don't know. Any cultivation, manufacturing dispensary, they're all on DHSS's on their time, right? And so they don't know when they're going to get the approval to operate. So all of a sudden they think, well, we're going to get it this day, and then 2 weeks pass, and they don't know yet. They still haven't heard anything, and so you're on kind of notice, a 2-week notice, and all of a sudden 3 weeks later, they finally get that call. And they're, all right, we finally got the call. We have all of our staff that's going to be there at this dispensary and tomorrow or the next day. And we need you guys to get all the product there that you know. And you're like, well, hang on a second.
A few more details in between A and B, but yes.
Yeah, we already kind of had like all this stuff planned out. Now we got to add this to your route because it just came up, you know, and there's a lot of things to figure out, and nobody has any heads up. Nobody does.
No, it's like you can't blame anybody. It's the nature of the biz, like you said, and there's some places waiting on commencement for a long time, and it's like, dude, you know, I feel, but at the same time, when they do get it, it's awesome because you're bringing them a lot of product, and a lot of times you get to see new products because everything's constantly innovating. Like, oh, I didn't know so-and-so had produced this yet. That's cool. You know, you mind if I check that out? And
can you add this to the order? Can you bring some of that? We just heard they have this. Can you bring more of that?
Don't blame them, man. Don't blame them.
So what is that lack of notice, very last minute? It's got to be stressful, right? How has that been on you?
It is, because we have some clients that are on a contract, and you know that's our obligation. And then we have others that are reaching out to us that need help because maybe their transport's not covering everything, is not efficient enough. Maybe they haven't gotten it yet. Maybe it's temporary. But you know, we only have so many vehicles. We only have so much manpower, so much body armor and technology that has to be in every vehicle, and safes and all that. So we can only do as much as our resources can allow, and it takes time to do all that. And you know, it takes time to get your vehicles commenced. Even on average, an additional vehicle to your existing fleet still takes a good 30 days just to get commenced. It takes about 5 minutes to inspect, but 30 days to inspect.
And you don't know you need that extra vehicle until all of a sudden you're put in that position at an awkward time, and you don't have the time to figure all that out, right?
Right, and then there's all these other hurdles. Vehicles are hard to come by right now. Why? Because they have technology, and that technology requires a chip that is nowhere to be found. That's anything from a gaming system to our cradle points to vehicle modulars and whatnot. So if you have noticed your car lots lately, there's not very many vehicles on them, and even less, Ford Transit vans, which is our most common vehicle. USPS, UPS, FedEx, Amazon, they all use these same type of vehicles, and they typically have priority because they buy them in bulk. Us little guys, we get the scraps. Yeah. There's not even any scraps to go around right now.
So you tack on COVID, you tack on the need for all this extra delivery services that's needed across the United States outside of the cannabis industry. And then you have this cannabis industry that's happening within this state there that's all new. Nobody knows who's going to be commenced, who's not going to be, how quick it's going to happen. And you guys are on the tail end of trying to figure all that out just so these dispensaries can open up when they want to with the products that they need to have. So I understand the stress of that situation. So I hope our viewers understand what you guys are going through as well. Our next question here says, do you guys have a weird or interesting story since you have been operating? Any weird or interesting stories you want to share that comes to mind?
Well,
there's some, but I'm thinking.
Yeah, we try to stay appropriate as much as professional as much as possible. We're always being videoed. I can tell you that. A lot of people taking photos, and that's a bit of an uneasy feeling, knowing that you're protecting something of high value. And when I say high value, I mean anything from thousands to tens of thousands to pushing millions, $1 to $2 million we've had in any given time in our convoy. Knowing that these vehicles aren't armored, it makes us a high target.
I got a couple. I just thought.
But yeah, the stories.
I thought a couple of good ones. So, rainstorm, cats and dogs. Just when you thought it couldn't rain any harder, it starts raining harder. So we're going divided highway. Some part of Missouri, I'm not getting lambing locations, but some part of Missouri, divided highway, 2 lanes this way, 2 lanes that way. 65 mile an hour in the rainstorm, kind of trying to regulate our speed. 2 people on the side of the highway pushing shopping carts. On the highway, we're not in town. One of their packages blows out, goes across the highway, and they decide it's good to run across the highway and go get this package. And we're just like, what is going on? Important package, apparently.
Wow.
Right? Another time, same divided highway, leaving the place, and there's a dude on a unicycle. And he's going uphill, and I'm like, dude, I respect him. I mean, I don't know where he's going. I mean, obviously he's got motivation, but he's riding a unicycle on a highway. So
Might need to hire that guy for some transport.
Exactly.
Unicycle transport.
That's dedication, dude.
Well, thanks for that question. Keep the questions coming in. I have another question. So, so I know one of the requirements of many, I'm sure, for you guys to get your license was that you had to be able to have a safe to hold material like within your own organization. Have you had to use that yet, or what's the reason behind that requirement, and have you had to use that yet?
Yeah, we call that our product vault. It's a pretty good sized product vault, surprisingly bigger than many that we've seen in dispensaries, but we've had to use it, but only once. And sometimes, and I'll probably let Justin talk about this, but sometimes the plans don't work out as planned. Hence the reason why we have to have need to be able to deviate from the plan and adjust. That's why we use military and law enforcement veterans also, because you can adjust to change rapidly. It's usually pretty second nature. But you want to talk about that? You were on the receiving end, weren't you?
Flexible, yeah, going across, and super squared away company, great company. Things happen with logistics and things like that, and it's, hey, you guys are delayed. It's like, cool, no problem. Delayed a little longer, cool, no problem. Hey, we'll recommend some good places to eat. Great place to eat, by the way, that they recommended. We come back, and it's like, all right, it ended up being a 5-hour delay. Like I said, nature of the business, and it's like, but the problem on the backside of that, and I'm like trying to do math, which is not good, but anyway, I'm trying to do math, and I'm trying to figure out how much delay is it to these different dispensaries or locations to get their product, because they're deciding to get the product. And ended up being like there's two, hey, we got to close. We only have security here from here to here. It's pretty rigid. And so we ended up having to keep products for 2 locations. So it came in really handy for that. And it's exactly what it's for, is emergency like that. I mean, what else were we to do? We're coming from all the way across the other side of the state. And it's like we had to have a place to get it. Kevin did a great job working everything out. And I was like, hey, this is what's happening, and worked it out. So the next day we were able to get that transported to companies before the time limit and metric was up.
So so just for our viewers to understand, like you said, time limit, so what does that mean necessarily? Like you have a certain time to get that product?
I would defer to Kevin. I believe it's 24 hours, but I will defer to him.
It is. So basically from the time that we pick it up and the time that it's delivered to its receiving location, it's a 24-hour time frame.
Okay.
Which is plenty of time, really, unless you have an exigent circumstance. In this case, we did. Could have been Mother Nature, an accident, or a collision type of thing, but in this case, time frames. People had to close, shut down. Then the route was long. There's like, what do? You take it all the way back and start over again? Still, still got to go somewhere.
Right.
So that's an interesting. Well, actually, before I get to my next question, we have another question up here. It says, "Do you manage the inventory or just drive and provide security?" And then second part, does someone else manage inventory?
I guess manage is kind of a loose word, but we
guess maybe they're asking like, so the inventory. There's a two-sided question. So maybe it's the inventory that's is it somebody on the inside here that's tracking the inventory that's going across, and then that same person, are they tracking the inventory that gets put into the temporary storage in cases?
Oh, if it's ever in our, well, we always manage it. So I think we do something different in the sense that when we get to the receiving facility, we ensure to every great detail that the manifest matches 100% to what we're receiving, and fully understand what the products are. And Justin's really good about it. He's humble, by the way. He's our senior transporter for a reason. He's phenomenal with people. His people skills are, as you can tell the way he speaks, he's just very good at this. I kind of lost my chain of thought now.
No worries. So
it's teamwork. It's teamwork on that end. Like we have customers that are at dispensary, customers that are actually the people that are buying the medical marijuana. But when we go to a cultivation or to a manufacturer, that's teamwork. Like they're super busy on their end, we're super busy on our end, and we're trying to come together to make sure that we have the product all together. And if I have a problem, I'm like, hey Kevin, dude, I need some help. Mm-hmm. And he's always right there. But as far as managing what's on there, it's teamwork with us and whoever we're picking up from, and then it's teamwork with us and whoever we deliver to. And that's what I like about it. I like people. I like working together as a team. And that's what it is.
Yeah.
And it takes that because it's a lot of stuff to think about. It's a lot of logistics.
Sure. So whenever you go there to pick up, XYZ products, do they already do you have to watch them weigh everything out, or do you just take those numbers here it is, this is what it is, or?
I think you got this. It's because this comes up all the time. Some of the stuff you ever watch, especially when receiving, if it says it's going to be 300 grams, you'll see them dump it out and weigh it to the gram. But there's times where you may have a box, and it's stacked 3 high with 120 in that box. It's simple math, really.
Yeah.
But you can only spend so much time inspecting this manifest before you start, going into hours. We try to keep it 20 on average, 20, 30 minutes receiving.
Yeah, and it's hard to call that. I know he struggles with time because he's trying to get the best bang for the buck for the people that are hiring our transport company. He's like, I tried 10 minutes, we've tried 30. I was like, man, really 15 to 20 is about it because you don't know what's going to happen. There's just unknown stuff that happens with the manifest, with the metric. It's a computer system. It has faults. Stuff goes on. You can be delivering to a dispensary. Something could come up there. The manager usually likes to be there to receive. They're dealing with something, so it's kind of hard to bring that time frame in. But we do the best we can to ensure what goes on our truck. It kind of depends on how they package too. If they've got a box, it's like we're not going to open up their sealed box to see what's inside.
Yeah.
So it just kind of depends on how it's packaged, things like that. But we do the best job we can to ensure that people are getting their product.
Sure. Cool. By the way, you guys, don't forget to tag a friend in the comments there. We got the competition, the giveaways, rather the loyalty points from Greenlight Dispensaries for free in-store purchases. We got the free certification from Elevate Holistics. Tag a friend. Ask questions there on the comments. My next question was going to be, if you get into an accident, what happens then? If your transport van that's carrying the product, you're on your way to the dispensaries there with that product, and somebody pulls out in front of your guy, he has no choice but to hit him. What happens then? What's the process?
Well, there's a few things by rule and regulation we have to do. First thing being, we have to file an actual police report. Now, it doesn't have to be then and there necessarily. If there's no one injured, vehicles aren't disabled, we can exchange information and then later report that, but the state needs to know about when there's a collision involved. As long as the vehicle's still operational, we can continue on with our mission. Vehicle's shut down, disabled, then we have to typically bring another vehicle or get a third-party transporter, partner, come in and change some things on metric and then move it. Lateral transfer from one vehicle to another.
Yeah.
Now, it hasn't happened yet, and I hope it never does, because it'll be a nightmare. Because that takes a lot of resources, of course, a lot of logistics.
Yeah, and I would imagine that it'd be very stressful trying to transfer over some high dollar products, out in unknown area that, obviously you got 2 different crews there to protect it and stuff, but
and hopefully the product is good. Hopefully that.
Yeah, if it's not refrigeration,
sure.
if it's edibles, or if it's something that needs to be kept cold, then I could see maybe something happening there, but most importantly, just protecting the product and with that transfer and obviously getting it to where it needs to go. But that hasn't happened yet.
It hasn't. We'll have the back of the van, the cargo area of the van, top to bottom, front to back, left to right, completely full. So if we took a hit, T-bone or something, it could damage product in there, absolutely. Some of it comes in glass jars that could shatter, and it's obviously no good. But that's the big part of insurance, and the highest expense we have running this business is insurance. 6 different insurances, and it's outrageous. None of it's cheap. Yeah. So unfortunately,
it goes across the board for all the license holders.
Yeah.
I mean, especially for you guys, I'm sure. So let's back up a little bit. We've kind of jumped ahead to where we're at now. I want to. What was it like going for these licenses beforehand? Kevin, you were one of the people I saw the most early on in the industry when the industry was just kind of in its infancy. We had all the MOCAN trade meetings. We had all there was several trade organizations that had meetings and get-togethers. What was that process like for you pre getting your license? Tell me a little bit like that. Getting to know everybody and promoting your services. Tell me what it was like before you got your license.
Well, to be honest with you, that was fun. I love taking something that's barely existing and make it better. I think most of us love to do that. and you get to meet new people, learn about a completely different industry. I mean, it's very similar to protecting any other asset, but it's still a whole new industry to us. Meeting lots of people, going to all these functions, became a member of the MoCan trade. That was a huge part of our knowledge. On top of Brandon and Rachel Dunn, MoCan trade, these meetings where I met you and all your cohorts, and all the people you had introduced me to. We just build these relationships. And so many, I mean, with all the different licenses, you meet people from all walks of life here. It's been entrepreneurs to very enthusiastic about the medicine itself, and patient and caregivers. It's been fun. In military and law enforcement, you typically have this level of stress, especially in law enforcement, with the exception of the admin side. The running a business, that's kind of stressful, but everything else, stress levels are down here. It's been so much fun and relaxing, and
that was before, though. That was before.
It's true. It's a good point. Yeah, it's definitely gotten challenging, but it was a lot of fun. We had to design all our policies and procedures from scratch. Never done that before. We deal with a lot of policies and procedures and Army regulations in the military that it's second nature. We're used to that. We're used to running off rules. I'm very black and white. I'm not a very exciting guy. I just see things as right and wrong. So when you have rules, it makes it easy to design your policies and procedures and the way your business plan, and stay within those guidelines. At least gives you an idea.
Yeah. So that was all the early on stages, and then you get your license. And just for those that are watching that don't know about the licenses, so transportation was the only license that was not capped, right?
Right.
Which makes it even more difficult for you as a license winner to create your business, because you have really infinite amount of people that you can compete with for that particular business. And what I've admired about you guys is that you were so actively involved early on, introducing yourself, getting to know all the potential license winners before we even knew who was going to be the actual people up and operating. Mm-hmm. And then once you even past that, you continue to develop those relationships. And I've seen you're like the version of me on the transport side. I'm on the media side, but I always see you hustling out there to make those connections early on, which obviously was the game changer for you guys to be probably the biggest transportation company that's up and running right now. Yeah, so kudos for you on that. That wasn't necessarily a question. I just wanted to make that, observation rather, that you were even early on when all these businesses were opening, you were the face that was there. I was there. I was like, you should start a media company, Kevin, because you're kind of doing it with your social media posts and all that. And we'll show this little sticker board over here in a second on the second half, but. It's almost like you're promoting the companies you're working with, just like you got ahead of them early on, like I did with the media side of things, and that makes a big difference. So, not a question there, but kudos. But we do have another question here. It says, "Is anyone on staff patients or consumers, or allowed to be?"
Originally, that's a good question. Originally, we said no. We weren't going to allow our employees to be patients because we were concerned about impairment in weapons. After a little time of operating and thinking about that, I mean, it's just like alcohol or anything else. As long as you're not impaired on the job while you're armed, there's nothing wrong with it. We have anxiety, we have illnesses as well that this medicine can help for. So the question being, they are not as of now, but they are allowed to be, and there are some that are considering it for things like sleeping aid is be a big one. But actually have a patient card, none that I'm aware of anyway. Of course, we don't discuss that anyway. It falls under HIPAA. That's their personal business.
And I'm in Kansas, so I can't have one yet. That'll change, but I'm a Kansas resident. So.
And I like how you said that falls under HIPAA, and it's smart as a business owner to recognize that. You really, if you're treating this as medicine, you should allow them the opportunity to do their own thing on the side, as long as it's not impairing their work on the job. And you have that. You have that watch on them at work. Whether they're performing or not, and it's really cool to hear you say that that's something that you're allowing them to do. So, another question here says, do you only travel throughout Kansas City or for the whole state? And second part, also, are you planning on hiring more transporters as the industry grows?
Well, no, we definitely cover the entire state. We've been as far down as the Boo Heel, Hayti, in southeast Missouri, up to St. Joseph up north, Joplin and Springfield down south, Jefferson, what's the I-44 corridor down there? 1913 is popping up down there. Yeah. So that corridor is starting to start blowing up. I believe there's a Besame down there. Going to be anyway there by the Six Flags. So yeah, we're all over the state.
Branson, Cassville, up the St. Louis area, north of St. Louis. We're all over.
So, but you have one headquarters based out of Blue Springs,
Correct.
And you do all that from there, which explains our previous conversation about sometimes when you have these long routes, sometimes things get compromised, and you have to have that storage area on
Correct.
site, which is a requirement for the transportation company.
Some of our routes have taken 17. And Kevin does a good job of planning this out and making it work for us, and also making it work for other people that we're transporting for. But some of them have taken 17, 18, 19 hours, and that's making a loop all the way like this in Missouri. So
yeah, unfortunately, it's like with the way the highways and everything work in Missouri is the rural areas. Once you go into then it's a long way to get
not
back.
Not a direct thoroughfare by any means.
Not at all. Not at all.
I think it was the second part of that question. I don't know if we touched it.
What was the second part of the question?
Are we hiring more?
Yeah, are you hiring?
We are constantly hiring. Just hired 3 more that are going to start next week. We are always looking.
Do they need to be? So I know you're primarily hiring retired veterans or retired police or local law enforcement. Is that the standard?
That is our target employee, but we will not turn someone else away if they have a skill set to bring to the table. They can be specifically protective service. They can be good in logistics or maybe even IT. As long as we can cross the tactical sense with their capabilities, people skills. I mean, 4 things we always look for: mentally alert, physically strong, morally straight, tactically sound.
Wow. Fire that off real quick. I love it. Well, cool. Well, let's do this. It's 7:45 almost here. How about let's take a little break here. We're going to check in with our Can of Convict project. We have some exciting updates from them. Of course, I'm sure you guys have seen that Robert Franklin is getting out. He's going to be getting out. Well, I won't ruin the surprise. Christina and Chris will be talking about that here shortly on the break here. We also have an update from the president of the Kansas Coalition. Last week we had a little audio issue, so we got the replay of what's happening with them from her coming up on the break as well. With a few commercials. Remember to tag a friend in the comments. We got some loyalty points from Greenlight Dispensaries to give away for free in-store purchases. And then we also have a free certification from Elevate Holistics as well to give away. So if you know anybody who needs a recertification or hasn't got their certification yet, tag them in the comments. We're going to take a little break, like I said. We'll be right back here with Kevin Snell and Jason, and we'll see you guys here on the other side of the break.
Hey guys, Chris and Christina with the Can of Convict Project. Hope you're enjoying the show. We've got a bunch of exciting updates for you this evening. It's been a busy week.
So we want to start with Rob. We found out recently, I think it was yesterday, that he did get his release date finally. We've been on pins and needles waiting for that date. His clemency was granted on April 30th. He had his parole hearing on June 3rd. And we just found out his release date is July 1st. And that's going to be next Thursday. So we hope everyone in the community can join us and welcome him as he exits the prison doors. We'll be given more details as we get all of this worked out. We just found out, so there's a lot of wheels in motion right now, so stay tuned for that.
So if the community is supporting everybody, we're all going to be meeting at a spot in Moberly. So like you said, we'll get all the details to you as soon as possible. Don't forget that Rob's got a GoFundMe. You can check out the Can of Convict Project page on social media. You can also jump on either one of our personal sites and you can just find his GoFundMe. We plan on throwing a big party for all of our Can of Convicts and everybody that we've gotten out of jail. Further on down the road, but right now we're going to kind of keep it chill with Robert and let him kind of get integrated back into society for a couple weeks and kind of gather his bearings. But we will have a huge party, so keep your ears out.
The next we want to talk about Eric McCauley. Eric is a Missouri individual who we found out about probably 9-10 months ago, and he has had a wonderful support system behind him with family, friends, a wonderful attorney, the Weldon Project, and a great many other advocates. And he had a hearing on Tuesday, and the judge granted his compassionate release under the First Step Act. So he will be getting out of custody soon. I'm sure that his family and himself would love anyone that can make it to see him released. So I'm sure all of that will be all over the internet. Keep your eye out for that.
We were there for court support for him this week, and they didn't plan on having any news or any information or any decision until Friday. But we did find out yesterday that he will be released within the next 14 days. So awesome, super exciting.
Next, we have Robert Breer. So Raymond Breer, I'm sorry. Raymond Breer, he was released from custody yesterday. As you remember, I hope, he was the patient who was put into custody for medicating while he was on supervision. He was given a 120-day backup, which he served the full time. He ended up missing the birth of his first child, which is absolutely disgusting when our patients are not supposed to be prosecuted. He is one of the individuals who is also an inspiration amongst everyone else on supervision who is getting jacked with for why we filed the declaratory judgment. We still have a court date set for that for August 23rd, but do anticipate getting a response from the judge beforehand. So we'll keep you posted on that as updates become available.
So congratulations, Raymond. We're so glad that you got to come home and finally meet your baby. So we're glad to see you're out.
It was beautiful. His girlfriend sent the pictures of him holding his child for the first time, and we are so excited and so heartbroken that you had to miss that beautiful moment of support for her and your child. We've been talking with Trevor Saller recently, and he's the individual who we've been sending letters to the governor still for, and his chief legal counsel in support of his pending clemency. He is just super excited about all of your guys' love that has been shown to him. He has been receiving your letters. He has been receiving any of the money that's been put on his account. He is so grateful. We've sent roughly 500 letters to both the governor and his attorney in support of him. Still no word. We're still going to keep putting those letters out there. But he did get the first opportunity for a visit in over a year from his father and grandfather 2 weekends ago. And then he'll have his first visit with his mother in that amount of time as well this coming weekend. And he is over the moon for that, you guys. It is so important for these individuals to have outside contact with the real world. It really does damage to their emotional and mental health. This whole COVID lockdown has been extra difficult on them, and we are so excited that he is so excited.
Well, with that being said, let's not forget about our federal guys that are still locked up. They still need letters of support. They just need letters just so they have some outside reach to the outside world. But don't forget about Anthony Bearden, Nicholas Glayholt, or Zachary Nutt. There are three of the federal guys. It's a lot harder of a system to work through than a state case. So please show us support and write them letters if you can.
And we want to finish up by saying thank you to everybody. The outpouring of support for these individuals and the project is absolutely humbling. Special thank you to the Evolution Magazine, Last Prisoner Project, Green Life, Shangri-La, Happy Rock Farms, Flora Farms, all of you guys, everyone I didn't list, everyone that's watching, everyone in the community that is working so hard. We see what you're doing. We support you. We love you. And we love that you support these individuals and us equally as much. So
none of this could happen without the community and without the support of a lot of these small businesses and different groups within the community. So we love you guys and thank you so much for everything you guys do. We couldn't do it without you.
And that's all we have for you tonight. Enjoy the rest of the show. We will be live next week, this time next week, with Robert as he's getting released. We'll be first thing live when he's getting out of prison. We'll be going live throughout the day with the different events that we're putting together for him. And thank you everyone who's assisting us with that. We love you so much. We'll see you next week, guys.
We hope to see you next Thursday morning too, up in Moberly. Have a good night.
Hi everyone. My name is Amy Reed and I'm the president of the Kansas Cannabis Coalition. The Coalition is a group of individuals and organizations working together in an advisory role to promote the advancement of cannabis reform in the state of Kansas. You may have heard of us because last year on the House floor in the Federal and State Affairs Committee, they were discussing House Bill 2184, the Medical Marijuana Act, and Chairman Barker specifically asked Representative Garber, have these amendments been vetted through the coalition? So it was so exciting for us to get that recognition because we really have been working very hard behind the scenes, advocating and promoting and educating for the advancement of cannabis reform in Kansas. I'm here today just to do a quick introduction of our group and what we're doing and to tell you some exciting things. So the first thing I wanted to tell you is we have a brand new logo, and this logo was created by Heather Steppe, who is the vice president of the organization, and this is our logo. I love it. As you can tell, I love flowers, so this is perfect. Love it. The next thing I wanted to tell you is we are about to launch our Together We Can campaign, and the focus of this campaign is to educate and increase awareness. We're going to be doing some in-person educational events, also some live events, Facebook Live, podcasts, things like that, and doing some media spots and press release. But the big focus of this is to increase awareness, provide some more education, and then early in January 2022, right after the start of the new legislative session, our goal is to have a cannabis trade show, probably in the Wichita area. So lots of fun, exciting things coming down the pipeline. We also have a website that's in its final production phase. And once the website is completed, you'll be able to get onto our website, see the events, learn about each of us, become a member of the organization. We really need more members. The more we can get, the better we can advocate and the louder our voice is. So keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. On Facebook, it's Kansas Canna Coalition, and on Twitter, it's KSCAN, KS Can Coalition. So Facebook and Twitter, just follow us there, and a website to be coming very soon. Thank you to Clay Stallings and Evolution Magazine for allowing us to be on your show today. And everyone have a wonderful day, and peace.
The Missouri Cannabis Industry Association has been our longest-running show sponsor, while providing quality education over many topics in partnership with area cannabis professionals. MCIA is dedicated to a free cannabis market to create supplies and prices that are patient-friendly, with initiatives to support adult-use cannabis, to protect home growers' rights, and expand the caregiving program. Go to mocia.org to learn about memberships, to learn about their certified caregiving program, and learn how to get involved. Thank you, MCIA, for being a show sponsor.
Getting a medical marijuana patient recommendation just got easier with Elevate Holistics. Using HIPAA-compliant telemedicine software, Elevate Holistics enables patients like you to receive medical marijuana recommendations from the comfort of their own homes. Here's how it works. First, visit elevate-holistics.com to book your appointment using our online schedule. Then complete the intake forms in our confirmation email. Finally, visit with the doctor using the link in your confirmation email. It's that simple. Book an appointment today.
And our July issue is hot off the press here. Just hit the streets today, talking about all things coming up with the July series and everything that's happening in the industry as well. We're back here with a live show from our very first live series show from a transportation facility, KC Can Transport, with Kevin Snell, Justin Morris over here to my left. You guys, we love your questions. Keep the questions rolling in. Tag a friend for the competitions or for the giveaways, that is. Let's get right back into this. I want to know how does, there's been a lot of talking out there about why are police officers and veterans a part of transporting this, and we've kind of covered that in the first part as far as transporting it, but we haven't really talked about the in-store people that are a lot of your employees, right, are doing the in-store security. So what is it, or have you done that as well, Justin?
Yes, I have.
And you've done that as well,
Correct.
And you guys both probably train people within your
We do.
to do that as well. So let's talk about that. Like, what does it take to be an in-store security person? What is it like from that perspective, especially going from most likely being a police officer who's had to deal with like a lot of traffic stops, a lot of kind of dangerous, potentially dangerous situations, living in that danger zone that is, to going into working in security for a dispensary?
With that, one, I think it's really good for us to get to work into a dispensary, because you see the clientele, you see the people that need their medication, and we talked about a little bit on break, Clay. It's like being in law enforcement, it's like taboo. Was it for me? Yeah, it was. My dad was in law enforcement, so if you did drugs, you were bad. Growing up in high school, it's like, hey, I like this guy, and he does drugs. Do I still like him? Yeah, I still like him. He's a good guy, and it kind of gets you thinking, And then being in law enforcement is illegal. It's like, yes, but kind of my mentality is we've all done stuff we could be arrested for. So, and I did my career in the jail and then in training, so I never was on the road. And then I also did with our SWAT team, but it's like, treat people as you want to be treated. For that aspect, I knew that, I was open to that. I had plenty of friends that did it. I did it also when I was younger. But seeing the actual medical side of it, it's like, yeah, I'd go to the dispensary and super rewarding to see people come in there, and it's like, you see people come in there with rheumatoid arthritis, all kinds of issues, they can't hardly walk, and it's like, I would really like to, and this is my opinion, to try to treat pain, anxiety, other issues with medical marijuana before I went to an opioid pill or something like that. Being my father was in Marine Recon, Vietnam, law enforcement his whole life, volunteered for rescue squad, did all that stuff, has back issues, and that's what they wanted to give him was the opioid pills. And to me, that's not the answer. And it can be hard. It can be hard getting off that stuff. So I would definitely like to see law enforcement officers kind of put that stigma aside and be like, if you have those issues, like don't count this out. And the awesome side of it too is it's something that you can produce yourself with a home-grow lights cultivation. I mean, how awesome is that to be able to provide your own medication and tailor it to you? I mean, don't by all means use doctor's advice too, but if you could tailor something to you, I mean, I think it's an awesome opportunity.
So early on, before we voted for this to be legal here in the States, because you're retired law enforcement, right? So like, where did you see most of your problems coming from as far as drug use or as far as like problem situations you had to deal with in the field? Was it from cannabis? Was it from other drugs?
I use this all the time. Clay is like, people say, "Oh, you're doing that?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm transporting medical marijuana," and you get different reactions, but it's like, well, it's whatever. I'm proud to do what I'm doing. I'm proud to work for a great company that I am. I fought a lot of people that were drunk or high on other drugs, but if you compare that to somebody who's just high on marijuana, I can't name one. I really can't. And that's why I tell people, I fought a lot of drunk people. That's been legal and it's been acceptable, but if you really look at it, how many people are using alcohol as a true medical treatment compared to marijuana? I mean, people self-medicate with alcohol, don't get me wrong, but actual give them benefits, but it's accepted, and that's kind of where my mindset is with that.
Yeah, wow. What's your experience? So you're not law enforcement, right? But you're all veteran. But what's your opinion on that matter as far as like, who would you rather deal with, on that scale or,
Oh, you hit the nail on the head. There's not one person that I know of that was impaired of only marijuana. When you say, they have warrants, for example, turn around, put your hands behind your back. You get the, okay. Whereas somebody on drinking alcohol, impaired off alcohol, immediately dukes her up. They want to throw fists. And amongst all those other narcotics that we come across, heroin be the big one here, tar and powder is really picked up. Depending on which side of the 435 you're on, crack is prevalent and meth is on the other side. There's so many just nasty things out there that just eat you up and make you do mind-altering drugs that make you do stupid things. A series of poor life choices, one after another. I grew up around marijuana. I never had anything against marijuana. I used marijuana as a kid a few times, and that had to come up when I did my background for being a presidential guard to get my top secret TSI clearance. That came up. It's like, you don't just lie about those things. It's going to come up eventually. But I tried it. I have a very addictive personality. I could join the military, and I realized, you know what? I better stay away from drugs being back then, drugs being bad, to include marijuana. Alcohol, same thing. I don't drink, don't smoke, don't consume tobacco, but I have a sweet tooth. That other white devil, I love sweets.
Sure.
Anyway, it's always been around.
Sure. So, by the way, you guys ask questions, be a part of the conversation here. This is the very first licensed transportation facility in Missouri here, KC Can Transport, primarily made up of retired police officers and veterans as well. So you early on, both of you guys early on had tried it. You both understand that there's bigger issues out there. But as far as like expanding, we've already talked about your veteran base, your police officer base. You're doing all this work for all these license winners here. What is your favorite memory of everything between going for licenses and getting to where you're at now? Like what's some of the memories that have stuck out the most along this long ride of getting to where you're at now?
I think for me is the appreciation by the patients themselves. So first and foremost, we started to talk about this earlier. Every position that we have in the company, we as the management side fulfill those. So I've been at every dispensary that we provide facility security for, the MIPS, in transport. We do those positions ourselves. So we fully understand what the client wants as the license holder and what the patients want to see. We are very tactical in our approach in the sense of how we look, but that's not for to scare away patients. That's so the criminal element on the outside looks in and says, yeah, no, we're not going to screw with that facility. We're not going to mess with those patients. We're not going to try to steal or take anything from them. But there are so many military veterans that come in wearing their hats and their pins and their coats and all these things that say, I was a military veteran. And they're in wheelchairs or amputees or just struggling to walk or even stand. And then you're out there, we expect it from our guards, is we're out there pushing them. We're out there talking with them. I had a guy, unfortunately, he urinated all over himself, head to toe. I'm still in there helping him get in. I'm still now getting his urine on me. That doesn't bother me. But, that's just how we are. This guy, he can't walk by someone else's trash on the ground without picking up because it makes the place look cleaner, makes it look nicer. Those are the kinds of employees that we want that go up that above and beyond.
Sure.
And patients seem to love that. I don't know of any, but I haven't received any complaints from a patient yet that didn't think that our personnel, men and women, were just great.
Yeah. Along with those same lines, you hear a lot of negative feedback that says something along the lines of why are veterans and especially ex local law enforcement in charge of this particular role in the industry. But from my personal experience going in and being a part of all these dispensaries, grand openings, and seeing your employees and other employees that are retired local law enforcement holding up these roles, it's beautiful. Like to see them cross that gap. One, because it's always been like the stigma, or like you should hate local law enforcement because they're upholding the laws that were somebody else's. They're doing their job, right? And then to not only understand that, but to see them cross that gap and be a part of the security of these companies, and then be in there having these conversations with the patients firsthand that turns out to be veterans, like you said, a lot of times veterans, or even law enforcement that's retired, that's coming in there as a medical patient, and you're getting to have these conversations and be a part of it. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful to me. Anybody that's going to talk shit out there, pardon my French, about retired local law enforcement or retired veterans that are a part of this industry, it's bullshit. It's bullshit because it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see them cross that gap, because they were the ones that had to uphold the rules and laws and all that. They were the bad guys because they signed up for that. And now they're on the other side supporting the industry and saying, here's who we are now. I am a part of this. I don't have to be a part of this, upholding these laws that I don't necessarily support anymore. It's a beautiful thing. I should have asked that in a question, but but go ahead.
What's loved more, a firefighter or a police officer?
Exactly.
Let's be real.
Everybody loves firefighters.
Everybody loves a firefighter.
Everybody loves.
Hey, dude, they're usually smarter. Just saying. They're usually smarter. They got cooler tools.
That's
I'm
a
saying. I
debate
got
for
some
another
good
day.
buddies that are firefighters, but
Dude,
on average,
I was an EMT for a couple of years of my life, so I got that little insight. And everybody doesn't understand what EMTs or firefighters really have to go through, but they respect and love them. But everybody hated cops because they just had to uphold the rules.
dude, who likes getting pulled over? And people say, I don't like getting pulled over when I was a police officer. I didn't like getting pulled over. Nobody likes that. Yeah. Nobody likes being told that they messed up. Nobody likes the person in the hall blowing the whistle at them when they're a kid. Nobody likes that. Yeah. But you look at it like, how much do we need it? There can all, go down different veins of how much that we need, but it is needed. But I understand that nobody likes it. That's cool, dude.
Nobody likes to be told what to do. Nobody likes to be held accountable. Everyone just wants to do what they want, but that's just now chaotic.
Sure.
It doesn't work that way.
Sure. Well, we have another question, and you don't have to. Obviously, this is it's up to your discretion to answer this. But what is the average pay for guards or transporter?
From my understanding, it seems to be a range between $15 and $30 an hour, and depending on the company. We pay on the higher end and take a less slice of the pie, if you will, as a company, because our purpose was to give back to the veterans, so they can live a comfortable lifestyle, and they don't get wealthy like I hear people talking about. We're not rich by any means,
As far as licenses goes, I would imagine this is the license that's the least
It is.
Least supported, funded, respected.
They didn't even put complete thought into the transportation part of it. We were on the back burner, an afterthought. So we got involved before really we all knew all the rules and regulations. It's actually very challenging because you as a license holder can also transport your own product. Vehicles still have to meet the same standard. But if everyone's transporting their own, then there's no need for a transporter. It defeats the purpose. But some are finding out real quick it's a lot more challenging than it appears.
Sure. And as far as expansion goes, it's a lot, in my opinion, it's a lot easier to plan expansion with any of the other licenses as opposed to the transportation because one, the transportation license is there's no cap on it.
Correct.
Two, you don't know your services until you get the call 2 days ahead of time when you need to be somewhere to deliver something, right? Because you've been going through that
Absolutely.
quite a bit as these licenses are coming online. They don't know when they're going to get their COA, which is the Certificate of Operation. Certificate of Operation.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
so they don't know when they're going to get that. They need that to operate. They need that to get up and start moving products around, getting into their dispensaries and all this. And they literally give you guys 0 to no notice that they need product from X to Z or wherever. And you don't know how many employees you're going to need, how many
That's the most
transportation
challenging,
vehicles
yeah.
you're going to need. You don't know the itinerary until a couple of days before.
Right. And our employees don't just come in the office every morning and sit around waiting for an assignment to be handed out at the table here. I call them ahead of time as much notice as I can give them. Say, expect a route with so-and-so, going to these picking up here and going to these locations on this day at this time. So they have to be extremely flexible, and they are. I mean, some more than others, but that's how we can operate. Communication and leadership, two most important things. Without those, any organization will fail.
Sure.
And I can't be any happier with the employees we have.
And so 2 to 3 years from now, things will be just pretty it's all cycled out at that point because everybody's up and operating. Right. Everybody kind of knows the supply demand situation, and it becomes more of a scheduled type.
I think it will be.
Yeah,
I do. Absolutely do.
I think so as well. But right now, you guys are. I couldn't imagine doing what you guys are doing now because I understand just from the media perspective the lack of notice that they have from DHSS, and so I understand that I really don't know how you guys can plan out these routes and operations and have the staff to back it up with the limited notifications you guys get.
Luckily, he doesn't sleep much, dude.
That's why I look this old. But, you might see a worn spot on my desk where I hit my head a lot. But we just smile, find a way. We always come up with a solution. Always. We've yet to fail to come up with a solution. Sometimes we can do it. We prefer to do it this way, but we can do it this way if you want. Sometimes we have to work with the other companies, and like you said, it's teamwork. Literally everything about this organization is teamwork. You can't do one without the other. We're ancillary. We don't produce. We don't infuse. We don't sell. All we do is provide a service, security of that product, and transportation of that product, and currency, of course. You got people that helps you run the show.
Yeah.
You can't do it without them. Combat support is what we call it.
Combat support, yeah, and which back to why it's important for veterans and people that are used to having to fly under the guns, so to speak.
And the need to accomplish the mission. I think that's part of people that want to do law enforcement and military. So it's double-edged sword. I like it, and then I bitch about it, right? But I really like it. I like that challenge.
Jeez, you just told me I had to be there tomorrow. At what time?
He has never once complained ever. Not to me.
No. I'm talking about, but it's last minute. That's part of it.
Sure.
We don't like that part, but we do like that part because it's a challenge, right?
And then, and the more of those you fulfill early on, than the long term. All right, you had me when we didn't know what was going on in the early stage. So
we get curveballs thrown at us all the time. So.
And motivation, you get there and you're, like I said, you're going to show up to a cultivator manufacturer and they're going to be working twice as hard as you.
Yeah.
Dudes haven't slept, they're working. It's all right, yeah.
You pick up gross on hours.
I have zero complaint
16
right now.
hours a day, 7 days a week. Some of them, they're just go, go, go.
Yeah, and you get that
So I can't
motivation.
really complain.
Yeah,
It is,
You
yeah,
get
it
that right
is.
back from other
Yep.
people that are going through the same thing, which
Yep.
I have experienced that on a major scale on all levels within
Yeah.
the industry too. Next question says, have there been any break-ins or attempted thefts in Missouri so far?
So the only criminal activity, I guess you could say, at this point is petty theft that I know of. There has been some burglaries of facilities that are being built, but not of product that I know of. There has been some theft of product with a little sleight of hand. You know, it's really easy to do if you turn your head away from your product, you know, or your samples, whatever. That has happened, but there has not been any robbery or violent crimes of any kind reported that I know of at this
Yeah.
point. Have you know anything different?
No, there's been signs of it. There's been definite
Casing, definitely.
casings that are legit casings, and you know, one particular I'm thinking of, watched the video, and it's like I could tell, working in the jail facilities a lot and things like that, is like, yep, those two guys are out hunting. They're hunting for a target, and you can just tell by the video. So those threats are out there, but thankfully, like I said, none that I've heard of either, being a serious burglary or robbery, anything like that. So.
Yeah. Has
Hope we keep it up.
has there been any concerns outside of, you know, what you saw there of like maybe future things going? You probably couldn't say that because you're probably just like, hey, we're watching you.
Well, you know, it's going to happen. At some point, somebody is going to see a target that risk versus reward is more towards the reward side. Somebody at some point is going to get robbed. Hopefully, it's nothing fatal. Product can be replaced, but you know, people do silly things where they're impaired. And we're not talking about impairment off marijuana again. Impairment off these, you know, psychohallucinogens, these mind-altering drugs that people do silly things on, or even alcohol for that matter.
Sure.
If you get desperate enough, even without drugs, you're going to do something silly.
And we mentioned earlier, is like there's a small percentage. That's what they do. They're a criminal element, and luckily the majority of society doesn't realize that or have to deal with them. But there's people, like I said, working attention. You see time and time again, and that's what they do. They're going to continue to do it no matter how that's their job. That's their. You know, a lot of time it's the kind of the family biz type deal, and sad to say that's true. So it's what they do. So they're looking for opportunities out there, and that's why I like working for this company to help protect, because I know that they're out there. I know that not everybody's like that. It's a small percentage, but they are out there, and that's why we're there. We're here.
So do you guys also do video surveillance security, like reviewing or watching video surveillance as well?
Absolutely. As a security director for many of these licensed facilities, that comes up often.
Yeah.
The facility protection agents do it, and I do it as well, and I have others that do it as well. We're looking for signs and ways to help prevent those things in the future, not crime prevention, you know. But yes, that's a big part of it. That's why it's important to have a good video surveillance system and playback system, which not everybody does.
Yeah.
You know, it's a minimum of 15 frames per second, but it's ideal to have very clear angles, which is required by the state anyway.
They're pretty. I hate to use the word Nazis about it, but they were like, as for I went to a lot of the commencement inspections for a lot of these dispensaries, and the number one issue was camera angles. It was all about, you know, what are you documenting there? So a lot of cameras getting added and all that.
I personally respect that. I appreciate that. I like that they kept these rules and regulations high.
Yeah.
You know, the standards are high. Less chance for things to go wrong. Most theft has occurred from inside. You know, it's people that have knowledge and or who are employees from the inside that steal things. It's not always done from the outside.
Sure.
And that helps keep the honest.
So let's talk about, we have another question here. Have there been any issues with badge employees and theft? I think you were kind of covering that.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much what you just answered, actually. So most of it happens from within, right?
It does. I don't know of any reports of it. However, most organizations are going to try to keep that very low key.
Sure.
Nobody wants to know that they have employees that are stealing from them, because it makes them look incompetent, or can look incompetent.
Yeah.
But I don't know of any that has been reported anyway.
Yeah, nothing in the actual public news, because I keep a pretty close eye on that as far as anything theft or stolen or issues within the industry, which is, it needs to kind of be that way, you know, because right now we're still fighting that stigma, and a lot of people that were on the other side of the ballot initiative. But let's talk about adult use. So going into adult use, will security stay the same? Will everything be as excruciating on the security side? Will your services be needed just as much?
I guess it'll depend on if it's still regulated in the sense that, it's still required to be a license holder and still have those security features in place. Really depends on how the state handles it. It's going to be legal, but is there still going to be guidelines? Will we still be needed? I think probably so, and there's going to be a far more abundance of product being moved because people don't want it known that they are using a product. It ruins their reputation in their minds. Not everybody is, they may use it, but they might not want people to know that they use it.
Yeah, with that, I think it depends, just to reiterate what you said, is like, it depends on how the state regulates it. Is it still going to be seed to sale with that? I think that has a lot to do with if it's how much we're going to be involved with that. Obviously, there's always going to be a security sense there. Is it still going to be a cash thing? Is it going to go? Is it a federal type?
Federal things, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those are all things that I ask the same thing. I ask people, I bounce it off on because I'm curious too, and I'm kind of like, I think we will still be needed, and I think that there's going to be people that want their product protected still. So I think we still have a role in that, and I'm anxious to see how it turns out. Actually,
You got to think about this too. Prices are going to drop, and the first thing to go seems to always be security. So if you have to cut costs, security is a good way to cut some significant costs. Security is not cheap. True quality security is just not cheap. It looks like.
So, do you worry about transporting product over cash?
Well, I still see it as an asset. My concern is computers can be hacked. So your information, we have to provide very specific details to our routes, our timelines, turn-by-turn directions. So if wind got out, if we're transporting 200K, that's a very tasty target.
Yeah.
It's not like you have serial numbers on there that are tracked. So if you get same thing with product, it can be stolen very easily if you don't have the proper security in place to protect it. We are obviously a little more alert. We do have vaults and security system in place to help minimize the possible theft. Plus, you got to get by the two high-speed individuals that are operating this vehicle. But even the best can be taken cut off guard and mitigated pretty.
I think it does. Anytime I have cash on board and product, it does. It's a juicier target. I mean,
Sure.
It's simple.
It should
You don't
be,
have to worry about trying to move it somewhere. You know what I mean? I mean, it's already cash. So
It really should be hush-hush, though. I mean, there should be no chatter on what you're moving. Product or currency, unfortunately. But
Most definitely. But as we go into adult use and the market expands, it's inevitable. It's inevitable that the bigger the market gets, the more product that's out there, the more that transportation is going on, the higher the likelihood of a target being acquired by theft.
Absolutely.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's happened in every other market. As the market expands, the robberies or the all those things tend to follow suit. So it's going to happen.
it is. People will rob nail salons. The pizza guy. They'll hit you up for a wallet or a watch. So a lot of it's opportunity.
well, I say people still rob banks. How long have banks been?
Oh, that's recent, isn't it?
right? Like, how long have banks been being robbed, and how much security has banks have been? So, do you think they're going to try to rob us? Yeah, they will.
Yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to
Exactly.
happen eventually.
Yes.
They're going to look for the easiest target. That's how it always happens. I've seen it in Oakland. Oakland was the very first city that had dispensaries come and open up before the feds came in and shut them all down. And this is Oakland like 4 years ago, whenever I was there as a project manager for some construction operations on the cannabis side. But I but shortly after saw the doors being ripped off a dispensary with a truck and being raided. And this is the very first city that had these businesses opening and operating in. So it's not about if it's going to happen. It's about when it's going to happen.
Absolutely.
And who's prepared for it and who is not. And as the industry expands, it's only going to become more prevalent in the future.
I agree. And when I teach in law enforcement, I talk about small percentage. I call them scanners. Like, they're scanning for opportunity. They're scanning for you. If you're arresting me, they scan you, and they're looking for opportunity. If you give them the opportunity, they're going to take it. And that is that small criminal element. That's what they do. So they're scanning. Okay, look. We're scanning opportunity. Yep, I'm gonna take it. I'm looking at that, and that's the way they operate. It's just it's the nature of the beast, so to speak. So those people are out there. So I agree 100%. It is going to happen.
Yeah. So hopefully, as we go into adult use, hopefully the security stays in place. I think it's, a lot of people like we discussed earlier. People say that why are police officers or retired police officers or local law enforcement rather, and vets doing this job? Well, this is why, because they've been protecting things for so long. Outside of their, they don't get to decide what they protect, but they're just really good at protecting whatever they're, whatever the laws.
I think it's that really innate instinct.
Yeah.
But at least it is for me. Like I said, I can't build stuff. I'm not good mechanically, but I'm good at protecting stuff, and I'm good with people, and I'm good with teaching. That's where my skills are, and I think most law enforcement is like that. That's what I said. That's where it falls in, and that's where you're going to see to me is the biggest would be a dispensary, a person. We get a lot of elderly people working. They get a big order and they're walking out to their car and somebody hits them. That's what I want to prevent. The main thing. That's the thing that really hits me is like I want to be there to prevent that. And I think there's a lot of people like that with me, and that's why I said not all law enforcement. A lot of people are drawn to law enforcement, military service. That's the way they feel, and that's why we're drawn to it.
And so, speaking of that, if there's anybody watching at home right now that is a retired local law enforcement or retired veteran, we talked about this briefly earlier. But if you guys are hiring, how can they reach out to you guys to potentially send in a resume, or what's the best way for them to reach out to look into a job position?
Oddly enough, this is actually our first test, because you'd be surprised how many people can't follow the simplest of instructions. So. We now, just because you're a military law enforcement veteran doesn't mean you're going to be a good fit for the organization. Those are things we look for, but doesn't mean you'll be a good fit. But we don't turn anyone away. If you think you'd be good at it and you want to apply, by all means apply. You can send your resume to my email address, kevin@kcprotect.com. And with that resume and the same email, a photo, a headshot, chest and above, in good lighting, neutral background, and preferably in a black polo if possible. That's it. It's the first step. Easy peasy. But not everybody will get that right.
Yeah.
I can promise you.
Well, and this is just right now, just to recap, we're just in the medical side of things. Are you planning on expanding KC Can Transport into adult use and sort of conquering that whole side of things as well?
We're kind of, I don't want to say going day by day, but we are always looking for opportunities and see how big we can make this. I know Kansas has already reached out to us about being part of that. We've talked about even expanding over to the St. Louis side if needed. Some of our people have asked us if we'd be interested in doing that to help cut down some costs. But yeah, we'll have to see. Well, what we don't want to do is just get desperate for manpower and equipment, then we get a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
We still have our standards we're going to uphold. But that is the intention, keep growing, see where this goes. We built it from the ground up. Sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Right?
And kudos to you on building a business with so many unanswered things. Like we don't know what's going to happen next with adult use. We don't even know when the next dispensary is going to open, and they don't know either. Which makes it just this beautiful thing that you guys are just adapting and molding and evolving. That's because evolution. You're evolving with the industry. You're growing with the industry. You don't know who's going to open next. You don't know what's going to happen on adult use. You don't know the states that are surrounding us. When they're going to go adult or medical, then adult use. There's so many variables, and we as a magazine understand all that because we're trying to evolve with that as well. So, but we definitely appreciate guys with your experience, whether it's retired local law enforcement, whether it's retired veterans, donating those experiences, that education, the amount of knowledge you have to come into this industry, and we support that completely. A lot of people out there see it as a negative thing, because you guys, a lot of those people were upholding the laws and doing their due diligence as far as their particular careers were enforced to do. But it's so cool for us to see people with your talents in past industries coming into this industry and offering those services. So kudos to you guys. Any last questions coming from anything at home? Tag a friend to get entered into the giveaways. Free loyalty points from Greenlight dispensaries. Free certification from Elevate Holistics. This has been our very first show from a transportation facility. This is awesome to see these veterans and local law enforcement involved in the industry, in my opinion. Any last comments or anything you want to?
I do. I notice we're all saying him and her and he, him and he, but we actually have, we all do it, but we actually have 3 female employees that are just jam up. We're always looking for, even in the EP side, it's always good to have female operators as well. My significant other, she's still in active law enforcement, so she can't be actively involved with the medical marijuana side, but she is key to our operation on the admin side, helping with policies and procedures in our rules and in planning things and, finances. She works her butt off. But she doesn't get the credit, and you see her all the time.
And I met Ruth earlier.
Ruth was here today.
Ruth earlier today.
And hopefully we'll see her out there more. Looks like a lot of heads were turning when they saw her out there today. I don't know if that's not something people are used to seeing, but she's dressed just like us.
Good. She'll do great.
She's very detail-oriented. Her sisters jam up as well. I was in the police academy with her sister. They're both dog handlers, search and rescue. Incredible. So don't think that if you're a woman, you can't apply and do this job. There's plenty men and women that can do this job.
And we're going to need a lot more of them as the industry expands into Missouri, especially as adult use eventually is going to come. We're going to need as many of these well-qualified individuals, women or males, to come in and with the experience that you guys have or they have as well. So awesome! Thank you guys so much. Any last comments for?
Really? Appreciate it, man. Thanks for accepting us.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys.
James, thank you guys. It's been excellent.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, and thanks for all the people that we work with out there. And I want to say that not only was it eye-opening, and you and I were talking about on the break, is I just want to get out there that people think about the industry as stoner or lazy is like some of the hardest working people I've met. I've done it most innovative. When you look at the equipment and the science that they're bringing to the table, it's awesome, and how passionate people are about it. And like I said, the people I've met new friends that I hold dearly in this community, not just with KC Can Transport, but also in the medical marijuana industry as a whole. So I'm very appreciative of it, and thank you for having us on, man.
It's my pleasure. Kevin, thank you so much for coming on. You guys, it has taken a lot. No matter what license team you're a part of, it takes so much work, dedication, and flexibility to pull this off. It really does. I just hope that everybody out there that's watching this can have a respect for the people that are involved with this whole process, because it hasn't been easy, and it will continue to not be easy. And it takes that flexibility for these people to, like Kevin and Justin, to continue to do this day-to-day work without even little notification, with very little leeway on times and plans, but they have higher expectations on the end results. And so it takes a lot for people like this to pull this off early on. And down the road, it's going to pay off. Down the road, it's going to be easier, but we're still in that thick process of the difficult era of rolling out this industry. And these guys are professionals, and they're doing it so good. And kudos to you guys for kicking ass and for all your hard work and for pulling together these teammates and doing everything you're doing. I have a high respect for you guys and all that. So thank you guys for watching at home. Thank you for our production crew here, James Thomas with Level Up AV, Kat King Films here behind the camera, Kat Dose hanging out in the studio. We have some great shows coming up for you guys next week. This sort of ends our June series with the first transportation facility. Next month, though, we have some exciting shows coming up. Our veteran-led show, we're going to skip July 1st because it's everybody's going to the lake then. We're going to be documenting Robert Franklin's release on July 1st, and then we're going to be re-airing that video on the last Thursday of July with the Cannon Convict Project. So come out there, support that on the 3rd. So the second Thursday of July is our veteran show. We have local MMA fighter. I just blanked on his name. So sorry. I'll get. Oh my God, I'll figure that out here shortly. James, find that for me. With local MMA fighter Kevin Crooms coming on the show from KC. This guy is an amazing fighter. He has an amazing story as well. He got called into a fight last minute. Won the fight, won the money, a very high reward, over $50,000, and the title, and got it all taken away from him because he tested positive for cannabis. So we're gonna have him on the show on the second Thursday next month, talking about why MMA fighters should have access to at least CBD for the anti-inflammation properties, from getting their face and head busted up, and all that stuff, along with our local veterans, Todd Scatini, Chris Wolfenbarger. It's going to be a great show. Our first time having a local MMA fighter on the show. Also, we're going to be doing a live show from Flora Farms Cultivation Facility in Harrisonville. Humansville, thank you so much. I'm glad I have all these people around me. From Humansville, live from Humansville with that show. We're going to be doing a live show from MCIA with Culligan Water, talking about their adult use initiatives as well on the second half of that show. Lots of exciting stuff coming up. You guys stay tuned, keep watching our shows. I want to say thank you once again to Justin here, to Casey Snell for all their hard work, being the very first transportation facility to get their license and leading the way for all the other transportation facilities as far as setting the guidelines on how to make this all work out, how to deal with these pressure situations of getting this product to these facilities with very little notice. But still doing it very professionally. So kudos to you guys for all your hard work. We appreciate you guys for sponsoring our whole June series. And yeah, I think that's it. You guys, thanks so much. We'll see you guys next week. Peace, love, happiness, and transportation. We'll talk to you soon.